Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today. That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable. Ah.
In August of 1977, at the Big Ear Radio Telescope in Delaware, Ohio, astronomer Jerry Ehman reviewed a batch of computer printouts and was puzzled by a strange pattern in the data. The 72 seconds of readouts were so impressive that Ehman circled the signal for his colleagues and wrote the simple word, "Wow," next to it. The radio telescope had begun its part in the search for extraterrestrial life just 4 years earlier, and a number of scientists thought they had finally found what they were looking for. They scanned the sky to find the signal again, desperately sweeping the coordinates from where it originated to attempt to find a repeat of the mysterious phenomenon. Unfortunately, no other signal was ever forthcoming, and humans once again were possibly the only life in the universe. Undaunted, scientists all over the world believe that there is life beyond our solar neighborhood. We just haven't found it yet. This case file joined the theorists as they reach out across the inconceivable infinity of space and find the ideas that orbit around the Fermi Paradox.
Welcome to Alien Theorist Theorizing, Case File 223, the Fermi Paradox. I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Andrew.
Before we get going on this, I have a quick 222, the Yuba County 5 update. Dan, earmuffs. I don't want to get this one. I don't want to. I don't want to sound. No, triggered. This again. So I volunteer with the Special Olympics. Every Wednesday we do some powerlifting and stuff. I don't. They do. I just carry their weights for them and their towels.
He's the fluffer.
And so sometimes the guys want to know what we're going to be talking about on the next case file, and they're interested and. Usually Callum, he's one of the best power lifters around. The guy's insane. He's so strong. He's never too interested. But I was telling them about this and I said, hey, it's interesting because it has to do with Special Olympians like you guys. So I'm kind of telling them the story and they're all like, well, that's weird. That's weird. They're asking all sorts of questions. Well, how did they get up to the cabin? Like, why, like, did their car get stuck? Right? Everything that we kind of ask. And one of the guys goes, hey, maybe they got scared up there by something. Something scared them up there. And I went, yeah, maybe like a Sasquatch or something scared. And Callum scoffed. Never really talks, never takes an interest in this kind of stuff. Like scoffs. And I kind of look at him like, what? He goes, you're definitely down the wrong tracks with that one. And I go, oh yeah. Well, what do you think? He goes, well, it sounds like you're describing a Yorogomu.
A what?
Or Yorogomu. And I'm like, huh? And he goes, oh, you don't know what that is? And I'm like, no, I have no idea what that is. And he rolls his eyes at me. And he's like, well, That's a Japanese spider ghost that often takes the shape of a beautiful young woman that lures men to her lair to devour them. And often she's can be seen holding a webbed like cradle that she deceives them to makes it think that it's a baby. And I'm like, God damn
Perfect.
it. That's perfect. I was like literally, I was like writing it down there at the gym. I'm like, what is it? He's like, well, if you Google Japanese spider ghost, like you'll find it.
And then
he's like,
he removes his fucking mask and it's Dan.
yeah. And he goes, he's like, I'm surprised that someone who talks about like you didn't know about this. And I was
He's
like,
disappointed in you.
yeah. I was like, oh my God. But just crack the case, man. Joro
Absolutely.
Gomo, a Japanese spider ghost. If you think about the guy's having a heart attack, he says he saw the 5 men and a pregnant woman, and no one really could account for that woman.
Well, a woman with a
Because it was
baby.
a woman with a baby. It's a Japanese spider ghost.
It's a great
luring them.
It's a great
to devour
theory,
them.
and he never says much, and he just busts out this theory randomly.
Yeah, it just
Perfect.
lights you
It
up.
just solves the case. He's basically Sherlock.
Hits you with a nice scoff.
Yeah.
You never heard of it?
Yeah. And then he's like, all right, watch me bench 305.
That's great.
So anyways, I want to give it up there. It was kind of funny, made me laugh. Now, Fermi Paradox. This one's awesome because the whole idea of the Fermi Paradox, like the origins of it.
Isn't it Fermi?
Listen,
Fermi?
you're about to sit here and grill me on pronunciation.
man.
Yeah. Melissa.
Right?
It's,
I
I'm
could
pretty
barely
sure
say
it's Fermi.
photography the other day. Right? A couple case files ago. What I love about this idea is it's when you read about the origins of it, it's basically like our show, except 4 people talking, they come up with this idea, except they're much smarter, more qualified, hold degrees.
They've been to college. They have a couple degrees, PhDs, all the
Won a
rest.
couple Nobel Prizes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just,
didn't Fermi, like Fermi's got, I can't remember what, I remember learning about it when I was doing my molecular biology. He's got shit named after him. And didn't he work on like the atom bomb or something?
He built
like
the
that?
first nuclear reactor.
Yeah, like come on.
not bad. Pretty good.
So I mean, he's got a pretty good list of qualifications.
Listen,
We
hey,
talk
okay,
about
but
this stuff,
we have a Dan.
Yeah.
We're pretty close.
Same, but different. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. That's all I'm saying here, right? Bunch of guys theorizing, having a good time. They come up with the Fermi Paradox. And it's one of those things where I don't think, like, from everything that I read, it didn't, they weren't like, hey, let's call it this. Like, Fermi obviously dies in 56. And then it's like this lingering conversation with these other scientists and stuff. They kind of name this paradox after this conversation that they all kind of recount together. Is that
These guys are the OG theorists. If there was microphones and podcasts, they would have started it right there, right then and there. If only they would have known. It's fun.
Probably would have been way
It's pretty much, it's like
smarter,
the basis for all thoughts and theories about talking about, well, where are the aliens? If we haven't found them, where are they? Why aren't they out there? I guess so. It just leads down. You could talk about it for days. You could have a whole podcast, and every episode it'll be a completely different version of the events.
I mean, people have literally been talking about it for like 5 decades
It's awesome.
So
and still adding things to it.
Dan, who are the players? Who are the guys that came up with this theory?
Well, so
You need some fucking Ocean's 11 music in the background when you.
if reports are to believe, so the Fermi paradox, in the most simplest terms, is pretty much the conflict between the obvious and obvious clear evidence of extraterrestrial life. We don't have any. To our knowledge, we don't have any real solid evidence that extraterrestrial life or life exists anywhere but on planet Earth. But that conflicts with the estimates that are kind of out there that if life exists here on Earth, it could possibly, and they're quite high estimates. Theoretically, they're quite high estimates. Like if you put in calculate for the number of what would be potentially habitable worlds that circle or that orbit certain stars and whatnot out in the universe that we've observed, there is a relatively high probability that life exists in some form or another that we would recognize.
Just by
Well, like Go ahead, Zell.
So just by sheer numbers, like estimate, if you just take just our galaxy, because I mean, if the rest of it's pretty much off limits at this point. Maybe in the future we could, over millions of years, colonize the galaxies, let's say. But like 100 billion or more stars, let's say. That's like a conservative estimate, I think. And then even if every star only had one planet, that's still 100 billion other planets. And then you got, so that's the Drake equation, right? Is that what we're talking about?
So yeah, the Drake equation is like a further kind of tack on to the Fermi Paradox, where it's like the Drake equation was formulated in 1961 by the astronomer Frank Drake, and it essentially it's an equation that is the number of civilizations in our galaxy with which communication might be possible, which are within our current past light cone. Like you could, like if you had flashing light, or you were able to, the electromagnetic radiation coming out from our planet that would be able to be interpreted as a message or intelligent life, blah, blah, blah. And then he adds in like all of these variables, which are like the average rate of star formation in our galaxy, the average number of planets that potentially support life per star that has planets, times the fraction of planets that could support life that actually develop life at some point, There's a number of other variables.
It's N equals R times FP times NE times FL times FI times FC times L. Equals.
And these are all different variables of whatever. And some of these are actually like, these are changing in real time almost. Like when it comes to like, when Fermi and his colleagues were having this conversation, they were just thinking about like planet Earth and, maybe Earth is like a rare occurrence. But now that we've had other things, like, we've discovered like TRAPPIST, and you've seen like there could be 4 or 5 rocky planets with liquid on them with atmospheres like Earth, and it seems that our planet perhaps is just more common than we thought. So that fundamentally changes a lot of these variables that we're talking about.
A lot of the readings that I kind of looked into too with using the Drake's equation in this kind of estimated like, a rough estimate of like there should be other planets like ours with life like ours. And the number could range from between 1,000 to 100,000 in the Milky Way alone.
Well, yeah, you can go. There's tons of calculators. So I pulled one up and I put in pretty much. I'll go through it really quick because the numbers are astounding. Even if you're a conservative, so like two stars born every year, 9% of stars have planets. Let's say one number of Earth-sized rocky planet in the solar system, which used to be thought was incorrect, but now we realize that actually it's probably more common than not having this Earth-sized planet in the solar system. And then if just say it's an Earth, say 70% of them have some type of life, 50% that life evolves to some type of intelligence, 20% of those intelligent species produce some type of communication. And then the average lifetime of the civilization is 1 million years. That's 12,600 other Earths, just like us, at the same point in time. And obviously, the numbers, you can skew them any way with numbers, but it's just like, if you theorize, if we're Earth and we evolved on this planet in this solar system, and all other solar systems seem to be kind of the same, maybe have a different sun, like they have a red dwarf instead of, what do we have? Ours is a yellow. You know what I mean?
You're talking about like the red sky
Yes, we
paradox.
do in fact have a yellow sun.
But I'm saying like a more stable sun, like our star is pretty volatile. Yeah. So like even in a more stable solar system, maybe the chance of life is even greater. So yeah, I mean.
Well, you start to think of these equations, you're like, man, this makes, a lot of sense that there could be numerous civilizations out there, which then brings to Fermi's question of, where the hell is everybody?
Where the fuck are the aliens?
Right? Because that's what he's attributed to saying at this lunch is they've been having this discussion. He kind of goes quiet. And then at the lunch, he just yells that. Where the hell is everybody? Doesn't make any sense.
So the conversation is legendary in itself about what they're happening. Apparently, what fomented the entire conversation was that a couple of the colleagues, so the major players that were in it, where you had Enrico Fermi, you had Emil Konopinski, you had Konopkinski, Edward Teller, and Herbert York, which were all working on the Manhattan Project. All had worked on the Manhattan Project together. And
I think Teller went on to form Penn and Teller later. I think.
Yeah. Because magic is really just astrophysics, and it all meshes together.
You get one, you get the other.
Yeah. So, and they were having a conversation about, as they kind of recall vaguely, about a comic that was printed in the New York Times, and they kind of dated. They eventually, when they went back and thought about it, they actually found the actual comic. Like, they weren't sure about it when they kind of recalled the events like further down the road, and people are talking about it. But it's like it was a comic about aliens coming down, UFO coming down, and aliens coming up and stealing the trash cans because New York City was having a problem with disappearing trash cans. I guess people were stealing trash cans. I don't know.
Maybe that's a rare alien metal. The galvanized steel garbage cans.
It's got to be that special aluminium. I don't know. The fucking English people have it. We don't. Sounds like it's pretty special.
And so they had this conversation, and then they kind of like, where are these? Are UFOs real? It just kind of, it went into that. And then they got a little bit more deeper in. Fermi happened upon the conversation apparently. And, as they tell it, like, but all of the people who kind of had it, like, we have one physicist, Eric Jones, who collected all the written accounts from the three surviving people who were present at that lunch. And probably the best account that he had was from York, and York is quoted as saying, of Fermi, he said, he went on to conclude that the reason we hadn't been visited might be that interstellar flight is impossible, or if it is possible, always judged to be not worth the effort, or technological civilization doesn't last long enough for it to happen. That was Fermi's conclusion to Teller, or York, who was actually there. So a lot of people, like, when they think of the Fermi paradox, it's usually kind of used this thing. It's like, well, if there were aliens out there, we would have met them already. That's usually kind of the interpretation that a lot of people kind of understand the Fermi paradox to do. But there are a few articles out there and a few people who have kind of gone through this, and that Fermi never says that life isn't possible. In that conclusion right there, firsthand account, it's that maybe space travel is the issue. Right. It's not that life doesn't exist. And so the whole notion that the Fermi paradox is kind of used to kind of push this idea that perhaps, there's no life out there because it would have found us already, or, a galaxy spanning civilization would have already populated most of the universe, and we would have found we'd be there, or we would have met them already.
Well, what was it? It was like 1 to 3 million years for a civilization to span the galaxy,
like moving at a certain percentage of the speed of light. I can't remember what the exact percentage of it was, but
it'll take a couple million years for a spacefaring civilization to colonize our
because
galaxy.
we're in the younger part of the galaxy. There's parts that are, millions and millions and millions of years older. So that's given life that extra, time to expand, develop, civilize, become spacefaring. So in theory, you're like, where the fuck are they?
And
where them aliens?
Where are they? Where'd they go?
Right. And so the notion that they're not here, so therefore they not exist, apparently is attributed to have appeared in print for the first time in 1975 by an astronomer by the name of Michael Hart, claiming that if smart aliens existed, they would inevitably have colonized the Milky Way. And then you had in 1980, 5 years later, you had a physicist named Frank Tipler who elaborated on those arguments, and he addressed the obvious question, like, where would anybody get the resources needed to colonize billions of stars? And he apparently suggested the idea of the self-replicating universal constructor with intelligence comparable to the human level. So like the von Neumann probes and whatnot. We'll talk about those in a second, probably. But I would just want to like kind of be clear that like the Fermi paradox, like Fermi didn't come up with it. it's not his idea. And it's a bit misleading. And from some articles that I read, it's like the Fermi Paradox was always cited as a way to pretty much like fight funding for SETI. It was always like it was brought up in like congressional hearings and stuff about like funding for SETI and like getting federal funds for SETI and those kinds of projects for the search for extraterrestrial life. But people would always bring up the Fermi Paradox and attaching Fermi's name to it gave it some kind of, gave it that gravitas. But it was always used as an argument against these projects to search for extraterrestrial life. You're like, well, if they're out there, they would have been here already. So why the fuck should we drop a bunch of money on a bunch of big radio telescopes when there's nothing out there? Man, we'll go spend that money on bombs, whatever.
That's absolutely. That's such a way, like, yeah. But at the same time, like, well, maybe we're just not relevant. There's so many other like counter arguments. Like, well, if they're not out here and they're not here, then they're not there. You're like, or they're out there and they just don't care, or they're so far away, or
we're the center of the universe. They would want to come here.
But then that kind of leads us into our next thing, because
we're not in the center of our galaxy.
Because then we have scientists then who, after this initially starts, there's other scientists who start thinking, well, if there is alien life out there, like how are we going to classify them? And we've talked about it before, the Kardashev scale, right? What's his name? Nikolai Kardashev.
Right.
Back in
he was a Soviet astronomer and SETI researcher.
Right at the start of the Cold War, pretty much. Comes up with the type 0, type 1, type 2, type 3, like civilizations. Type 0 being nothing.
Oh, yes.
And as you progress from type 0 to type 1, 1 is when you can harness like the power of your planet, like all... like
complete, like self-sufficient.
Yeah, all the tidal, the solar, the geothermal, everything.
Yeah.
And then as you progress from type 1 to type 2, you start now capturing all the power of your sun.
And what are we? We're a 0.93 or something,
I think 0.73.
0.7?
0.7. So we're not doing bad.
We're not bad.
We're getting better. And that's really...
There's improvements could be made.
Hey, we're still failing. Come on.
And that's really only the last couple hundred years. We've like jumped from like a 0.01 to a 0.73. So, and then as you progress to a 0.2, all the power of your sun. And then... So you've controlled your solar system. You're the master of the solar system. You've colonized all the planets. And then from there, then you start...
That's like Dyson spheres and shit. Like that's like...
That's when you are harnessing the entire energy from the sun, right? Like
You're building apparatuses. I was a little high when I was researching this, and I was like...
You had to be.
Looking up Dyson spheres, and I was like, so you build an apparatus around the sun, and then do you live on the surface of your apparatus? So I was like, that's just like a planet, man.
And then from type 2 to type 3 is like you've expanded from your solar system. You are now harnessing the power of pretty much the galaxy. You are now God.
Gods.
You are.
Oh shit.
You've harnessed all physical. You've harnessed the laws of physics, and
holy fuck.
Like you've experienced, you can do everything. If there's
once you've harnessed all the power from all the fucking Dyson vacuums on the planet,
congratulations, you win life.
You could suck it all up.
Yeah, congratulations, you won life. You beat it.
Right, but Dan, there's that scale which we've talked about before, but there's also one that we don't talk about very often.
Right. So we talk about the Kardashev scale a lot, and we talk about Dyson spheres a lot. And but one of the other ones that we found while researching this one is there's another scale called the Barrow scale. So famed science communicator and astronomer Carl Sagan suggested that civilizations could be classified based on something like information mastery. Right. That's one of the ways that he thinks. But there was another scientist, John D. Barrow, who introduced another interpretation of this kind of technological scale of harnessing a resource. And in a 1998 book titled "Impossibility: The Limits of Science and the Science of Limits," Barrow showed how technological progress has allowed humans to extend our control over the environment in increasingly smaller scales. So he came up with a scale starting at type 1 minus. So type 1 minus being capable of manipulating objects similar in size to themselves. So building structures, being able to extract ore, build monuments and such like things like that. Goes on to type 2 minus, capable of manipulating and altering the development of living things. So we have organ transplants, studying DNA, genetic engineering. You have type 3 minus. Type 3 minus being capable of manipulating molecules and molecular bonds to create new materials. And then it's type 4. You have type 4 minus, type 5 minus, type 6 minus, and type omega minus. Type omega minus being capable of manipulating the basic structure of space and time.
And what are we?
So like Doctor Strange.
Like Doctor Strange shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Where are we on the scale?
So judging by just the description Dan said, I mean, we're doing organ transplants, studying DNA. So that's the type 2. So type 3 is manipulating molecules.
4?
Molecular bonds.
So type 4 minus is capable of manipulating individual atoms themselves and creating nanotechnology and complex forms of artificial life.
So we're somewhere.
I think we're like 3 minus. That's where we're at, right?
Yeah.
We're somewhere
3 minus.
3 minus. We're
on our way to 4. I think we're closer to 4 than 3.
I think we got our best mind.
I think so too.
We got our best minds studying to be type 4, so it's coming.
Yeah.
Like we might be like a 2.7 or something. Like I don't know about like
Dan.
creating whole new like completely new materials might be like a little bit out of our reach. Like
You ever had a Cheez-It?
yes.
Those don't grow to the ground. We made that shit, Dan.
You did.
Dan, Andrew changed a hard drive in his computer, so we're at least a type 4. We're at least type 4.
Yeah, I'd say so too. Or give us a 5, because 5 is as much as I can get to on these Roman numerals, because that's where the Rockies were fucking numbered. That's all I recognize. The rest I don't know.
Isn't that Rocky 6?
Yeah, but I don't think first of all, who watched it? Second of all, I don't know if they had the Roman numerals on or not. I just had the box set.
It's not a true sequel if it's not Roman
And
numerals.
I was the worst when, I'd be watching it with my family. They'd be like, yeah, grab Rocky 5. I'd be like, fuck. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this one.
If they're out of order, you're like, oh, Rocky beat Apollo again.
yeah, like just give me who's he fighting? Who's he fighting? Then I can tell you which one. That was easier.
So yeah, there's a couple different scales that they've talked about, like the mastery of the types of resources and the environment itself that can be applied to these things. And then so now you kind of get into possible resolutions or proposed resolutions, I suppose, to the Fermi Paradox, right?
Where are they?
Where are they? Why aren't they here? Why isn't there again galaxy spanning civilizations?
Why don't they love us?
If the universe is what, like 13.5 billion years old,
this version of it,
where are they? So why aren't they here? Why aren't they communicating with us and with those? And what is?
Yeah, it's like, where are they? So they call it the Great Filter or filters.
Well, that's one of them. That's one of them.
Well, so the great filters, or the great filter is maybe life does exist everywhere, and there comes a time in every civilization where they face an obstacle too great for civilization to continue, whether that be cataclysm or AI or something that stops them from progressing to being the Federation and colonizing the galaxy.
Lack of resources.
They exhaust their resources. They can't get up. Something. There's something where civilizations rise and fall all the time, and they get to the ceiling, the filter, and they can't smash through.
So, for example, like some people think that potentially that there's either two options for us. We've either passed the Great Filter and we're the first ones through it. So that could be like not having nuclear war. We didn't create a technology. We didn't push the collider, and it just created a black hole and destroyed our planet. And these things happen to other civilizations so much that we're just lucky. So we're the first ones through. Or the other idea is that we haven't even reached it yet. So there's probably a good chance that we're doomed. And that's, whether that be climate change, where you just as civilizations compete against other, lesser beings and, start to compete for resources, and then you have cultures competing against other cultures for resources. You eventually get to a point where you just destroy your planet, and then you die.
Pandemics?
Yeah, or super bugs and stuff like that. Like that, those are all could be great filters. And one, like if you're looking at the great filter hypothesis, one of the ones that I loved is I was watching a couple of videos. This is one guy where he goes like, if we find alien life, if we find out that life's abundant, he goes, if we go to Mars and there's microbe life, and we find life on Saturn and we meet intelligent life, he's like, that is all very bad news for us, because the more life we find means the likelihood that we haven't yet reached the great filter, which means we're fucking doomed. He's like, he was quite the doomsayer. He was like, listen, the only way that's good news for us is if we're the first, and there's no one else. Like we made it, and it's rare. This is super rare. This is the only good news, because we start finding stuff, it's bad news.
Yeah. So as humanity, have we hit the filter and passed through, or?
Boys, we hack darts without filters around here. All right, we're not worried about that.
Is humanity hacking darts without filters for a continued amount of time, or are we almost at the end? That's like the big debate. Like, how far can we go? Is there an endpoint, or have we passed it? That's always the argument. Because if we've passed it, there's a good chance others have as well.
Smooth sailing,
hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, but there's just as likely that we're not quite there yet, right? Where it's like we're starting to get to a position where we're going to be facing a lot of new problems, like lack of resources on Earth for the growing population, just how fast we're consuming and destroying ecosystems, climate change. Like we have a lot of big obstacles coming up. So it's like, is this one of those things where, are we in trouble?
Does it not feel like that's the impending doom, though? Like the way you look at it, like these natural disasters are coming, they're way shorter in between than they used to be. We've got global warming, we've got multiple pandemics. Like, I don't know. I don't remember this kind of shit growing up near as much, but obviously I wasn't as...
Well, and also just communication and information is so easily and widely shared that you do hear about every disaster like up across the planet simultaneously. But that's like that. I don't know who did the quote, or maybe it's not even a real quote, but everyone says it's a quote. We're either the only life in the universe, or life is everywhere and it's both equally terrifying. Like we're either the only ones, or there's other civilizations out there, and some of them could be predatory.
There's no way we're the only ones. There's no fucking way.
I mean, I highly doubt it, but that's the age-old debate, because you can't find them, and that's the paradox. Like, well, if they're out there, where are they? And if we can't find them, is there a reason? Is that the great filter? Like, we can only get so far, because if you think about it, we've only been really sending signals for what, like 100 years.
Yeah, and people like to really inflate the idea that it's like, oh, like we've been beaming out these things, and the first radio, the TV signal that they're going to receive is the Nazi rallies or whatever of Hitler and stuff like that. And I usually have to kind of have to step back and re-examine that, because I'm like, those signals that are being sent out, like they maybe reached 100 light years. So maybe like we usually like 150 light years, something like that. And those signals that have been beamed out and video, like the TV signals, radio signals, they are very attenuated at that point. Like they are, radio is designed to kind of beam out in like a dome. It's not like a straight shot. So
it's not high power.
Those signals have probably like don't even reach past Jupiter at that point. Like they have to get through our atmosphere, have to get what doesn't bounce off the ionosphere and come back down, has to get all the way out there. Like, so unless you're shooting stuff out there, I mean, people think like radio signals just go out and they just keep going, but they weaken over time. And you have things like cosmic radiation, stuff from our sun, whatever, like all of that kind of stuff is just like.
So visitors traveling to Earth As they get closer to Earth, they're going to be like, "What the fuck is?"
Well,
going
they might
on?
not even be able. They might not be even be able to pick up the signals because they're so spread out, and they're just like there's all of the interference from just the
everything.
Space is just like it's the radio signal. Unless you send out a signal, and even there are like there's like a companion project to SETI. I don't think they're directly in tandem, but there's another one called METI, which is instead of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, it's messaging extraterrestrial intelligence. And they pretty much like rent out radio telescopes and they shoot out like they pick out stars that they believe would probably have a good chance of having like an intelligent, would fit kind of our idea of like where an intelligent species might live or intelligence would develop. And they point a very powerful radio telescope there and they shoot it out like a tight beam, like they put a lot of power behind it so that the chances are that when it gets there, it will be somewhat intact. And that's the kind of stuff that you have to do. But again, that's like throwing a dart, in this whole ocean of things. And you have to hope that it hits. Right. So it's like you're really just like you're shooting in the dark. Like you're just like, I hope it gets there.
That makes me feel so much better because in my brain, all I can picture is us sending out these annoying ass radio signals and just driving somebody nuts. Like I picture these radio signals are making it to planet Vegeta. Instead of Goku's crying, it's these radio signals that are driving Brawly absolutely fucking batshit crazy. And he just cannot fucking wait to get to Earth and smash some ass. Right? Like that seems like a mistake to me.
No. So yeah, I mean, you can be comfortable in the idea that it's like, I think I read in one article where they're like, if aliens were picking up the radio signals that we are sending out, you'd have to be looking for them. And then you'd also need like a receiving dish the size of like the United States or something. It might be slightly smaller than that, but you would need like a moon size thing because the message, the radio signal would be so spread out. You'd like to catch it. Like you'd need a huge receiving dish.
Maybe like what we're sending out is so fucking primitive that it's just like, it doesn't even register with someone else that's, even a couple hundred years from now in the future of our technology, because technology advances so quickly and so exponentially that maybe like what we're sending now is like, it's like, it'd be basically like jumping on a Morse coder right now, just hitting it, be like, I hope help comes soon. I hope someone picks this up. Like someone out there's got to know Morse code, and you just like no one gives a shit.
You got some scientist Greys like working on it. Then they have the Grandpa Grey on the fucking rocking chair in the front, being like, wait a second,
I know what that is.
What they're saying. Right? Like,
so that actually leads into another possible resolution for the Fermi Paradox, and you have this one called the percolation hypothesis.
Damn, we're going to leave on a cliffhanger.
Sure. And we'll talk about that. We'll percolate.
Grab a quick beer.
Yeah, we'll let that one percolate.
We're going to let that one percolate. We'll be right back.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort, meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today. The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
And we let
percolated long enough.
So you haven't. So we just talked about how communication across the vast distances of space has been a problem. Like it's always for us as a basically an audio visual kind of race of organisms. We've always been like, it's hard to get that delay. Like you're always going to have that delay with our communication devices. So there's one hypothesis called the percolation hypothesis that was penned in 1993 by a NASA scientist, Jeffrey A. Landis. And he wrote a paper arguing about the consequences of relativity, kind of applying into it, and that perhaps like an exo-civilization would only be able to expand a limited amount throughout the galaxy, or in only like certain parts of the galaxy that are conducive to being able to communicate like over these vast distances. So it's like, even if we spread out a certain way, I mean, you see it in science fiction novels. I think The Expanse is kind of a good example of like when a civilization gets so spread out, like the breakdown in communication, like in terms of like control and all that kind of stuff, would just kind of like, so you can only, one of the ideas of like where the aliens is like, maybe they haven't really gotten out that far. They get to a certain spot. They're like, this is good. We can't go any further than this because it would be too resource intensive, and they just stay where they are.
Or that like the group that gets that far out just decides like, we're just our own, like they leave the union pretty much. And they just they're like, we like this planet. This is as far as we're going. We're not going to send anything back. We're separated. So like it kind of just like it devolves, like it's like your cohesiveness devolves the farther you spread, and eventually just like, it's as if that's all we got.
I mean, just like in a logistical, like it's just a logistical challenge to be like it is a task and able to that it would possibly limit a civilization, resembling ours. If you use us as a template, like it would be very difficult for us to maintain like a cohesive society or culture or whatever across the vast distance space. Not to mention that, not to remind everybody that the universe is expanding out. So
always.
That goes into another one where it's like perhaps these civilizations are just too far away to contact, because we're sending out signals, or even if we were sending out signals, the stuff, we're still going, like we're still like on our cosmic journey, shooting out from the center of the universe, still going out. So it's like maybe the signals will never catch us in the time that we're looking for them.
In our brief time as a civilization, like the signals just might not get here, or the aliens might not get here, or they might get here and we're gone, and all that's left is our ruins or something.
Right. I mean, you could have had a signal that came in when the dinosaurs ruled the planet. Like they could have been a signal there, and it was for a brief
we all know
second,
what happened there,
sent
Dan.
by like that was 65. What was that? How many millions of years that dinosaurs are here?
Yeah, but you know what happened,
like,
Dan? Then reptilians. The dinosaurs went to the center of the Earth.
If a civilization like ours, and it's like, okay, they've only been sending signals for how long? No civilization is going to send signals out for millions of years.
Yeah, but you can't pick up the signal if you're living at the core of the Earth.
Right.
Problem is they were sending those signals out back in the Homo erectus days, and then they're like, "Okay, they have an answer. We go check them out." They come to check us out, and they're like, "Fuck, these guys
nobody
are
picked
idiots.
up the phone. Like
these guys are fucking dummies. We gotta get the fuck out of here. This is useless.
This planet's useless to us. They're no good." Or
they should have waited till we started eating mushrooms.
Or they showed up, they found Homo erectus, not the brightest character, did a little DNA manipulation, got us. Aliens.
Bingo, bango, bongo, you got Fred Flintstone. Look at that. Pretty good.
And so perhaps they are still watching us. So that goes into the next hypothesis of being the ever popular zoo hypothesis, that we are on this planet. Somebody somewhere is watching us, and either are just like kind of they don't want to contact us for some reason. They're just like, they're just watching us do a thing. I mean, I've thought about this one before, where it's like, if you have these types of super civilizations that are all this thing, like they wouldn't really care. It's like we're sitting on our planet, and if it has nothing to do with them, chances are, if you're going to talk about the myriad of ways that life could possibly develop, and it probably doesn't even resemble anything possibly that we could perceive or imagine in our heads. But they're like, we don't even show up as a blip. They're just kind of like, well, just leave them there. If they learn how to travel, at a certain speed of light, it's very, very Star Trek First Contact, where it's like, until we break the warp barrier, we're not really a threat, or could be considered a contribution to contribute anything to the Federation. So we don't need to contact them. They're not a concern.
One of the things I kind of had when I think about the zoo hypothesis is I like your theory, Dan, but where my brain always goes to is that, we here on Earth, we have all our, our fancy recording equipment, our computers, and there's still other humans on islands that we leave uncontacted. And we go, let them son of bitches just live their lives, right? Leave them alone.
Because you don't want to get shot with arrows trying to teach them about Jesus.
Don't show them what we got, right? Just let them live their lives. Like, we could make their lives exponentially better. We're just like, nah, no contact, preserve their way of life. So, like, when I think about the zoo hypothesis, I just extrapolate that. Like, we're sitting back, like, looking at these guys, with their spears and stuff. We're like, humans. Look at these humans. They're like other us, just past versions. And I think then in that case, there's spacefaring humans. Humans are not a rarity, and there's just way more technologically advanced humans that go, look at these motherfuckers on Earth. Look at these guys with their stupid Focusrite audio boxes.
You don't think that there would be like a Jane Goodall of that fucking group that's like, I'm gonna go live with these fucking apes?
Maybe there is.
Go see how it goes. I'm
Maybe
gonna go move in and see how it goes and study them firsthand. And
maybe they're here Maybe they're here right now studying.
Well, so I mean, if you go down that road, then I mean I think that fundamentally changes the entire kind of situation, where it's like, if there is another civilization that exists that's observing us, and we put that into our equation, or Drake equation, whatever, that's not only do we have one planet of intelligence, you have another intelligence, and then exponentially that's like everything. So that would that would pretty much like set it all out of whack, and then that would kind of set the levels of life existing in the universe way higher. So then perhaps we wouldn't be a rarity. So it just kind of be like, you come across an anthill and, you have a different kind of, I mean, they perhaps have a very different, they can have a completely different view of what intelligence is, right? Or they're not even able to communicate with us. It could be a completely different type of, maybe they communicate by, light. Maybe they communicate by a completely different, they don't have voice boxes. They could have something, they communicate to the EM spectrum. They could which would be a good way to communicate over long distances. You're using light instead of sound.
Yeah.
Instead of your radio signals.
Like optical communication.
So, it's just those kinds of problems that you kind of run into in some of these things. It's just, But so that's one of them. We always come across the zoo hypothesis of people saying that's the reason for alien abductions. They're just kind of poking around at us and looking at us and whatever. And so like on to the idea that perhaps outside of Earth, like life exists on a completely different type of wavelength than ours. Like if anything, like humans, us bipedal creatures with all our five senses all kind of linked up here in our head and on our fingers and stuff, are the rarity. We're the outlier. And perhaps you have places like icy planets like Enceladus and Europa and these worlds that could have
frost giants.
They could have planet-wide oceans. So this leads into the idea of the water world, right? So you have these, if you imagine just that 70% of our world's surface is covered by water.
Yep.
Right. And perhaps, maybe terrestrial life was a fluke, an accident, right? Maybe life is supposed to develop in the ocean where there's a lot more space, there's a lot more resources, there's a lot of all these things.
Are you going to mermaids, Dan?
It could, sure. Right. Life could look like that.
You've piqued my interest.
Mermen as well.
Think about deep sea life. They communicate and how they communicate by light, and mostly in things like that, like phosphorescence and bioluminescence and things like that. It'd be, and then also the resemblance between deep dark oceans and space travel wouldn't be. It'd be kind of the same types of whatever.
Okay, so if we're talking about a water world, then let's say that like intelligent life like us could possibly live, but they live underwater. That's where we're getting like dolphin people, mermaids, mermen. Then I kind of extrapolated to that makes terrestrial life and what we're accomplishing very rare, because a great filter to me would be leaving the water to become terrestrial. Like, so now like, hey, like, here we are on land, we can do apparatus, we can go back underwater. And not only are we leaving the terrain of the water to the land, we're now leaving the land to go into space. So I'm like, if we look at it that way, I'm like, okay, well, we're exponentially better than dolphins.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Humans,
we're not
way
as
better
cute,
than dolphins.
but we're still pretty
Right.
impressive.
But maybe the thing is they don't have to leave their planet.
That's perfect.
Right? You have all of this space, you have all of the resources that an ocean planet would provide you. Like you're able to, deeper, if there's less land, like there's some scientists out there saying that perhaps like rocky planets that have like a 30-70, rocky surface to ocean covering planet like ours is the rarity, and that perhaps it's more like there's more ocean, more water covering planets and less rocky surface or whatever. That's possible. And then if you have life growing up on these planets, developing on these planets, they would live in the oceans and they wouldn't have to leave. They don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, they don't have us fucking up their ecosystem.
I like thinking about like that. Like maybe like us as humans, say there is intelligent life everywhere, but their intelligence is different. They're less, like they're not so, like we're a very introspective species. Like we're always thinking about ourselves and what we've done and what we could do better and what we'll do next. Maybe they're intelligent as in like they have great, kind of like an ant colony, They're very, very great builders. They know exactly what they need for food. They can survive pretty much anywhere in their habitat. There's no need for ants to go, they're like, you know what we should do? You see that pond there? I think it'd be cool if we try to develop technology and see how deep we can get into that pond. So maybe like humans have, just hypothetical, we're the only ones who like stare up into space and are like, you know what we should do? We should leave this awesome, perfect planet that was developed perfectly for us and try and shoot ourselves way into the void.
Yeah, instead of destroying what we already have, we should try and fucking just enjoy it and treat it well instead of trying to look elsewhere.
But maybe that comes from evolving to like having to know scarcity in these, say like an ocean world, where they have this abundance of resources and what they need. They haven't had the same kind of survival instincts in grade that we have, where we're competing heavily with other species than other cultures for resources and stuff. So it's like this idea of scarcity has kind of driven us to where we are now. And maybe that, like, Zella said, like maybe you can live a little more cohesively if there was no chance of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I feel like we're the ones that are causing most of those issues ourselves, but...
Hey, wolves had their chance. They bowed, they bend the knee, right? We're lions
they
and
could have ate
tigers.
us all with their faces.
Yeah.
They didn't.
And they decided not to.
They decided to eat our scraps.
I mean, like Braden says, yeah, the whole idea that this idea of scarcity and these things, like we could get into a whole entire conversation about where this idea arrived culturally and temporally, like in our history and stuff, which is a fairly recent, like in terms of our entire existence as the human species, like it's a fairly recent kind of thing. If you go back just to the time when Native Americans, where I'm not saying that all Native American societies were perfect or whatever, but the way that some of them lived and interacted with their environment seemed very sustainable. And some of these ways that they kind of leave nothing behind, nomadic species, maybe in a different universe, different time, if it hadn't shaped out the way it was, we'd still be living like that.
Yeah, but and even if that happened, wouldn't it get to a point where the population would get big enough to have, like, you're going to run out of resources either way.
I mean, if you use them perfectly, you know exactly like how much the land can support.
So another, so kind of moving on to that is, so we get to another idea that it's like, okay, so population might be a problem, right? We have a bunch of people, we have too many people, something like that. Or maybe an extraterrestrial civilization reaches a point where they can pretty much, next idea is like, okay, maybe we don't need physical bodies. Physical bodies take up too much space, too many resources. So next best thing, upload your brain into the supercomputer. We're already kind of like thinking about that, and that technology is kind of seems to be on the horizon somewhere that we're going to be like, we're gonna have,
100%, man. This is one theory that I was kind of like running with, where I was like, okay, well, maybe we don't see these other civilizations because there isn't that much of a need to explore. Like, say if you get to a point where you have good enough AI and you build a supercomputer, like even just as a type 1 civilization where you're harnessing the power of your planet to run your, supercomputers, that everyone that's left of your non-AI just uploads their consciousness and they can live in bliss for the next 100,000 years. What's the need to travel? Like, especially it's like, why do you have to colonize another planet when you can colonize infinitely in some sort of digital world?
But that still takes massive amount of energy, right? Like, you think about what goes to my brain, like my brain needs my computer needs a fan, right? It creates a bunch of energy. Right, like so they'd still be burning resources, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but
you control your sun.
If you think
so, that's the idea behind what's called a matryoshka brain, which is a hypothetical megastructure that would basically be powered by a Dyson sphere. So you'd have the entire sun powering this giant stellar engine that would run your computer drive systems.
But see, I guess I think about it this way too, which is kind of interesting. It's like in my brain anyways, and like all of ours, immediately you go to the fact, like, I have to be able to reason with this, right? Like, what makes sense to me? Where are they getting the energy back from for this? But at the same time, we're talking about a civilization that's supposedly, mastered interstellar travel, that type of shit. So it's like
intercellular.
It's like, sorry, not intercellular.
That's the greatest Rickyism I've ever heard.
Yeah,
you like that?
I love it.
So, anyways, like they're basically what I'm trying to say is their technology is far more advanced and powerful, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's like giving a fucking Homo erectus a Game Boy. He'd look at that fucking thing and I can't even. There's no way. He'd have no idea what to do with it.
Throw
so
it back at you.
How are we supposed to even fathom the type of technology that they have and how they can get to it?
It's a good point,
right? Like that's.
But we can kind of think about if you pull it into our. I mean, that's pretty much what physics does. It's like, at least in our thing, because
our physics, though, right?
Right. I'm getting to that. Where I was going to say, like, perhaps our physics, the way that the universe works, or how the laws of physics, thermodynamics, and all that stuff is parochial. Maybe it's like it's regional to our type of space, or our math only works here on Earth, in this solar system, in this galaxy, or in this section of the galaxy,
in this dimension.
There's an idea that I'll talk. Well, I guess I'll just talk about it now. There's a great book called Fire Upon the Deep by Werner Vinge, and it talks about, he basically organizes the galaxy. It's set in our galaxy in like a part of the Milky Way, and his idea is that perhaps like interstellar travel,
it's intercellular.
Intercellular travel.
It's intercellular.
Perhaps what limits societies and cultures from being able to travel between certain areas of our galaxy or something, maybe why you would only find life in certain regions, is because that there is some type of density of thought, or you could call it density of something that we haven't found yet. And this kind of fits into like the missing variable idea of like quantum physics and relativistic physics, that there just is something that as you get closer to the center of the galaxy, then like physics doesn't work the same. So you would have like exponentially increasing resistance and like thermodynamics. So like our technology, if you reached a certain point, all of the technology that we developed based on the physics and the math that we have now doesn't work.
Just stops working.
Our brains wouldn't work. Like you would cross a certain line in the galaxy and your brain would just shut down. You become a drooling idiot, and you just like because your brain doesn't work in those, it's like going without quadrant. Atmosphere. Like you pull all the air out, your body doesn't know how to function without air. You're dead. So you'd have very, very simple, like monocellular life, maybe in the center of the universe. On the outside, like where we sit, kind of in that area, you'd be able to some semblance of technological whatever, like
kind of like the depths of the ocean, where the lower you go, the more pressure stuff,
gets, right? Yeah. So something like that.
But maybe it's similar like that, where as you get closer to the center of like a supermassive black hole, right? This whatever pole or whatever, down. Yeah, right, and it breaks down at even at a distance we don't even fathom. So like you're saying, it would make sense to me that you just have like building blocks, like tardigrades.
So all of your super intelligences and all your stuff would live on the very farthest parts of the galaxy, on the very outside, because that's where it's like the density is least amount, like the resistances float, like kind of drift off, kind of slope off, and then you'd be able to build you'd be able to build new materials and things like that. It'd be easier to manipulate energy and all of these things, so you have access to all this stuff. So that's one of his ideas, and it's a really cool book. Good story. And so that kind of
that's a fucking good, that's a cool theory.
That's dope.
So that brings up the idea of perhaps, like we were talking about, like you have this technology that they have uploaded their brains and they have this thing and they need energy, right? But they figure out that it's like, well, we need energy and we won't be able to explore the universe, or we've already explored it, and like the energy would probably be less required to do whatever. They want to maximize the computational power of their computers and things like that. So what they do is they upload their brains into a cyber thing, a storage, cold storage, and this is the hibernation or the estivation hypothesis. So I learned that hibernation and estivation are two different things. Hibernation is when
this was created by fucking Andy Samberg's Swedish cousin. Anders Sandberg, right? I read all about this. I learned it.
Okay, yeah.
Look it up. Yeah. Anders Sandberg.
I believe you.
Tells us about. I don't know. I
thought my headphones cut out. What happened?
I thought Andrews was.
Yeah, I thought Andrew was about to drop us some knowledge bombs. Like
I just did. And fucking Andy Samberg's cousin, Anders Sandberg, created this fucking hypothesis. What more do you want to know?
Oh, I would like to know what the hypothesis is.
I can explain it to you if you want.
Yeah,
let's hear it.
As the universe cools, the potential work producible by stored energy can increase by multiplier of 10 with a small 30 above it. I think that's squared, right?
Close enough.
Landier's principle. If the goal of an advanced civilization is to maximize the number of calculations done to generate information processing for tasks like mass-producing simulations, then estimation would be purposeful to achieve this end.
All right, so now tell me like I'm stupid.
So the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
yeah,
his Swedish cousin came up with the fucking cool hypothesis. You're welcome.
Perfect.
And it needs 10 to the 30 energy.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. All right, next one.
Next.
Pretty much broke it down for you, didn't I?
So now you have another possible idea is that there is the transcension hypothesis. So this was proposed by a pretty smart guy named John M. Smart, who's the CEO of the Foresight University.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's my kind of humor. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And so it's quoted like simply, it's like this. The transcension hypothesis proposes that a universal process of evolutionary development guides all sufficiently advanced civilizations into what can be called inner space, a computationally optimal domain of increasingly dense, productive, miniaturized, and efficient scales of space, time, energy, and matter. So this is where you get, like we talked about the Barrow scale before, that if you're able to manipulate energy and the forces of space and time in such a fundamental way, you don't have to go anywhere. Everything is there. Like you go beyond.
Dan, are you trying to tell me that this theory is like Rick's quantum carburetor?
Well,
that's phenomenal. Thank you.
Not even that.
That's exactly what it is.
Not even that. So there's another great science fiction book called what is it called? The reality dysfunction, I think. And this one talks about like a certain. It proposes like a hypothetical planet where it's like on this planet it has it's basically like a moon. It's considered like a moon of Jupiter, right? But it spins on like a super fast. It spins like super quick. The atmosphere and stuff is thin, but it's there. It's got a really unique kind of like electromagnetic interaction with the gas giant that it goes around. It has like this really charged atmosphere, but the surface is a hellhole. It's like basically you get like a couple months of like this weird like kind of rainy season stuff and the time for life to develop, and then you get these crazy storms that just rip everything off like down to the bedrock, right? And nothing is left but just like mud and very basic components of life. So a form of life evolves on this planet where essentially it has like about three forms. You have like the very like a tadpole kind of form, whatever. Then they grow into like a type of tree. And then these trees, they are able to harness or kind of like sync up with the electromagnetic phenomenon that goes a thing and basically move their entire consciousness as a thing. They move up into it.
What?
And then they become like just a gestalt consciousness. So they all kind of populate with all their consciousness kind of sit inside of this plane, and they're able to kind of extend out from there. So it's like so it could be something often, like that.
Like every few episodes are like, this isn't even my final form.
Pretty much. It could have something like that where the conditions for life push a species to do that, because it's an evolutionary response on the planet, because the life cycle is so short that it has to find a way.
Life finds a way.
Life finds a way, and it just they end up like being able to kind of pick out their way into the and they travel the stars just as this giant kind of consciousness with still having like a connection to the planet, like, and they kind of move out around the universe.
Could that be like, you think, when you hear people that are like, they say they're in tune and they get these like transmissions from these aliens that are in this Zeta Reticuli and stuff like that. Could this be, perhaps something like you're describing, where it's like maybe they're not receiving any signals, but they're receiving a signal from a consciousness that lives life like you're describing?
Well, that's like the universe is consciousness kind of theory. So you figure out a way to become that, and that maybe allows you to travel through the universe in a different, like, you're not traveling now through by propulsion.
Galaxy Wi-Fi, man. We just got to figure out the fucking
Wi-Fi, baby.
We got to figure out the password.
I can't remember the name of it, but I've talked about it before, but there's the H.P. Lovecraft story where there are aliens that essentially like, they do the kind of same thing. They evolve past their physical bodies, but they're able to project their consciousness not through just space, but also time. And so they kind of fling it out, and sometimes they will find minds like ours, perhaps. And they in the story, they kind of, one of the consciousnnesses gets in contact with the human and starts kind of like taking over his mind.
Yeah, I've heard this. Thetans.
Except Thetans were invented after the H.P. Lovecraft story. So, I mean, so yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, if you don't have a need for like a physical body, it could be transcendental hypothesis. Like maybe they don't even, again, they aren't able to communicate with us, which kind of also leads into another one called the Aurora hypothesis, where it's like perhaps extraterrestrials, like, they see our planet, but our planet is so fundamentally different, and we as a species are fundamentally different to them, that they're like, we could go here, but it's not suitable for us.
Well, we're very biological creatures, right? So like we have a very specific standards for how we like environment we can live in. If you change just like oxygen content by a little bit, or CO2 or nitrogen by a little bit, like you get slowly poisoned. And that same even astronauts who have been living out there, like they've done the long-term studies now, they have enough data to kind of talk about like space travel fucks you up. Like long-term staying out there, they're saying like it permanently damages like a lot of their blood vessels and things like that. So we're just not like, we're not adapted to it.
We're not built for it.
We're built for our gravity of Earth. Like,
yeah. So whenever we talk about how like adaptable humans are, but it's like still you're kind of like,
we're extremely
like on this planet. Yes.
Extremely adaptable.
Now,
for our planet.
One of the things I was just kind of popped in my head is when you're talking about this, like this consciousness that just drifts off. Thought kind of popped in my head that maybe it's one of those things where it's like these beings like us that can receive a consciousness that like, are rare. And so much like a sperm race, like a bunch of sperm races for an egg or whatever, these consciousness drift and they find a planet like ours where a species like us is come around where we're like an empty node for these things.
That's
right?
Scientology, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. That's what I believe.
So Braden's going to be giving seminars, next week. So if you want to pay $50 a pop, come in there.
Yeah, you just go to our Patreon, patreon.com/alien theorist theorizing. I will help you clear most of the themes so you can get to your main one.
You join the global consciousness, follow Braden's 4-step plan.
Tom Cruise going to be there?
Well, maybe later on. Once you get to level 6 or 7.
A celebrity level. Yeah, I like that theory though. I mean, yeah, if we do go somewhere, the chances we'd have to have really good reconnaissance of that planet and know exactly the makeup and the exact gravity. We would need to know a lot to make sure we could survive. Or
we would have to terraform.
Well, even that, but even this microorganisms,
the planet, like the mineral composition of the planet, like it could be barely radioactive or something like that, where it's
that's what I mean.
Gives off some type of radiation.
You would need really good reconnaissance of the planet. Yeah.
Or how about this? You just drop a couple megaliths that hide eventual and intelligent race will find, and you leave the secrets of knowledge contained in it, in the structure of it, and you just drop a germ bomb of the necessities of life, and you just walk away and you go, life is going to pop up. We've given the building blocks and we've left them the tools for when they can understand how to use them.
It's like fucking Prometheus.
Which is like the Sentinel.
Yeah, they come here, drop off life, off they go.
Because that, to me, that would make the most sense of for you to just be like, hey, we're gonna expand human existence again. We've talked about the hurdles of interstellar travel, the distances, we're just not built for it. So it's well, if you can't, maintain our human civilization, maybe it's just important at a point where you're just well, we should just keep trying to build life and leave them with the knowledge that we had somehow.
Yeah, but so you're saying these intelligent life forms that are able to travel to our planet are dropping these things off. Why wouldn't they send some type of intelligent AI that has the ability to carry their DNA with them and create test tube fucking babies, and then boom, you've hopefully repopulated this planet with your species. Maybe they could do that with send out vast fleets of these, right, and just repopulate as many planets as they can.
That's a good theory. Maybe. Yeah, I like that.
There's plenty of chance. We talked about von Neumann probes. So that's one of the other ones that we talked about. Oh, it's called there's the one they called the Berserker theory, which is my favorite one that I came across. The Berserker theory comes from...
Berserker! Sounds fucking badass.
So the Berserker theory is essentially the idea that, okay, if you had these self-replicating, automata, robot probes, AI probes, you would shoot out. So any technologically advanced civilization might be well, we'll just send out these unmanned probes to go out, like we were saying, like we were just talking about, to go and replicate. They'll go to a planet, they'll terraform it, whatever. But on the off chance that this civilization has come to the conclusion that we need to get rid of all the other life because, either it's a matter of their culture, or they'd be we just want to be able to maximize the space that we're able to live in. The Berserker theory being that you could, that this an AI probe could go rogue and just be hey, fuck it. I'm just ripping everything up. All life, destroy it all, whatever.
Ultron probes.
So that's one that came across I guess the Berserker theory is around 1948 or 1949 that kind of came around. You had I think von Neumann probes kind of came a little bit later, but you had this idea that perhaps even these unmanned probes would go around just ripping up planets.
Well, and to build on that, one of the things I had read before too is that on the Berserker theory is that some people think that maybe we're a byproduct of that, and that's exactly what doing. That's what we're doing is we our species is just it's ingrained in us to extract as many resources possible, make the planet hotter. We're just naturally doing a terraform, not even knowing it. And
We're doing
our
a
life
really
cycle,
bad job.
yeah. Well, no, our life cycle, just like as we kill the planet for us to survive, whatever takes its place is like, that's what.
Yeah, maybe they survive on islands of plastic in the ocean.
We're like a fucking virus being infected on the planet.
Sure.
Yeah, I've heard that theory, right?
That's interesting.
So the Berserker theory has its own kind of derivatives, and what the most recent one being the dark forest hypothesis. So people really like that one as well.
Dude, I hate this one so much because it makes me so terrified. And it makes me like, I'm like, we need to kill everyone. Like if we see them, we have to kill them.
Buddy, Cobra Kai. Kai.
Strike first.
Strike hard, no mercy.
Yeah, baby. 100%. Dude, if you listen to this theory and believe anything like the vastness of time, like the way that I had it spelled out a couple times is like, if we find a civilization and we're like, hey, there's a civilization there, and we're going to send some people to go visit it. The distance it would take to go visit it, by the time we get there, their technology may have leaped like tenfold. By the time we get there, they could be aggressive and then want to destroy us. And now not only are we there, they kill us. And then they're like, all right, now we need to attack them. Where did these guys come from? Where do they come from? Now we need to instantly attack because, it's terrifying. Like the idea is that you're a hunter in a dark forest and you don't know if there's anyone else around. And if you see another hunter, you're not sure if they're nice and, hey, like, they have a gun or they have a bow and arrow. If they see you, are they going to shoot you? So is it safer for you to just shoot them first?
Or just stay silent in the start. Like just be as quiet as you can. Like as a hunter, like your breath, everything, your footsteps, you try and be as silent as possible and as a civilization, tiptoe through life without giving away your position in the galaxy to a potential predator race.
So I read this little excerpt from a book that literally like I peed a little. It's fucking terrifying. Like, listen to this. So this is from the book, The Killing Star by Charles Pellegrino and George Zabrowski. It was published in 1995. And this is the section that kind of describes this theory. And it says, imagine yourself taking a stroll through Manhattan, somewhere north of 68th Street, deep inside Central Park, late at night. It would be nice to meet someone friendly, but you know that the park is dangerous at night. That's when the monsters come out. There's always a strong undercurrent of drug dealings, muggings, and the occasional homicide. It is not easy to distinguish the good guys from the bad guys. They dress alike and their weapons are concealed. The only difference is intent, and you can't read minds. Stay in the dark long enough and you may hear an occasional distant shriek or a blunder across a body. How do you survive the night? The last thing you want to do is shout, I'm here. The last thing you want to do is reply to someone who shouts, I'm a friend. What would you like to do? Would you like to find a policeman or get out of the park? But you wouldn't want to make noise or move towards a light where you could be spotted. And it is difficult to find either a policeman or your way out without making yourself known. Your safest option is to hunker down and wait for daylight, then safely walk out. There, of course, are a few differences between Central Park and the universe. There are no police. There is no way out, and night never ends.
Oh, that's fucking terrifying.
Right?
Dude,
I peed a little again.
The other thing that I learned looking up this one is that, like, if there was an advanced species that operated under the guise that we need to strike first, we need to strike fast, we need to strike hard and kill everyone, because you can't leave survivors for vengeance, because with the vastness of space and time, you might be giving these civilizations 100,000 years to build technology and army before they come after you or whatever. So it's like, one of the things I was watching was like earth-ending bombs. One thing that I found fascinating is like, you could have an earth-ending bomb that's the size of the human, as long as it's traveling about 95% of the speed of light. You just shoot it at a planet's dead.
Yeah, it's just a kinetic weapon. Yeah.
Yeah. Boom. Dead. Like,
I mean, we have a
you just
concept.
you shoot a Braden out of a cannon at 95% of the speed of light, motherfucker. I'm an Earth-ending event.
There was a
dude,
concept
fucking
for a satellite that like a defense
Galactus.
satellite that was like that it's just these giant huge rods of tungsten, and it would drop them into low Earth orbit, and you could drop that, and it's basically a nuclear bomb. It just like dunk, like it just slams in the ground with such speed that you're like.
Rod of God or something, or
something like that. I can't remember what the name was. We've talked about it before, but there's a concept for some time of space-based weapon where they would just drop those. Except it'd be like impossible to get those rods into space because they're so heavy. That's our big problem.
Like when looking at the dark forest hypothesis, like literally, like the only way forward, like it made. There's Jordell. Hey, Jordell. Hey, come sit down, Jordell. Hey, let's replace Andrew on the show.
We should.
Jordell's way more interesting.
Andrew's sister's popped into the camera here. She's banging around. She's trying to get a fucking hairdryer, it looks like.
Yeah. Hey. Come here, Jordell. Come here. No, come here.
On to the show.
I can't hear you guys if you're talking.
Put the headphones on.
Put the headphones.
You're talking to me. I don't know. I have to grab this.
What are you doing?
I have to grab this.
We were trying to get Jordell to replace you.
He's not doesn't have headphones in.
We were trying to get Jordell to replace you on the show. She wasn't picking up what we were putting down though.
Oh man.
So as I was saying, like the dark forest hypothesis, like when I was looking at this one, I was like, man, the only way forward is silently, carefully. And if we see a civilization, we cannot contact them. We cannot. Because even if you contact them, you're like, hey, we're friendly. By the time you message and get that point across, it might be too late. They might already be like, we don't know what they're talking about. Kill them. So like the only way forward out of like the dark forest hypothesis is if you meet like some sort of federation where it's like a group of already like a coexisting group and you're like, okay, can I join you? Can I be in your hunter clan in this dark forest? Because everything else is fucking terrifying. And it like when you think about survival and you think about how humans are, could you imagine if there was a race for a second where we're like, we've met these things on Mars, we can't really talk to them, we're not sure, we're killing them. Like we're killing them. Like let's not be.
Dude. Look how we treat each other.
Yeah, like they're
neighboring countries of the same species. We fucking blow them to pieces.
But that's the same. So if life kind of evolves the same kind of route, and we're kind of going to run into other life, it would mean that they're fucking dangerous, just like we are. So then our only option is like, okay, well, we're obviously not going to get along here. And unfortunately, it's you or us. So we're competing for the same resources. Sayonara. Here comes the Braden bomb.
Dude, you shoot a Braden out of that kinetic fucking interstellar railgun, you're taking out more than just an Earth, man.
Oh, yeah. Taking out the fucking solar system.
Fucking dragon bomb.
Yeah. You wait for all the planets to line up. You just shoot it right through the whole thing.
So pretty much what we're saying with the dark forest is we're out there, we're listening all the time for signals. And we are sending in some, like we're emitting signals. Are they reaching other places? We don't know, but we should be doing a better job maybe of not sending anything.
We should just stop. We should not try to contact anyone after reading that fucking excerpt from that book. Stop
When you start getting into the dark forest hypothesis, I go like, maybe we shouldn't be broadcasting anything. Like we should just be listening. We should be listening for others and then kill them.
And preparing.
When we find them.
Absolutely.
And then murder them and take their stuff.
So,
sounds about right. Yep. Sounds pretty
mug them. We should mug them in the dead of the night. Is what we should.
Yep. So intergalactic muggings. That's what humans have to do.
And steal all their technology. Yeah, I like it.
Me too.
Those are mostly your interesting ones. Yeah. There's still more. Like I said, like we said before, the Fermi Paradox is, I mean, it's not really, in the end, like, it's not really a paradox. It's just kind of like, it's a question that Fermi kind of posted, being like, well, you know, why aren't more interstellar travel going on? Like, why doesn't that happen? Not that life doesn't exist. And so it's been talked about, and scientists keep adding on to it. The more information, more information data we gather about our universe and our galaxy and our galactic neighborhood.
Dude, hold on.
People are adding on it it's been decades, and they're going to keep adding on to it.
Someone in the chat just said, and it gave me we can't even trust listening to the galaxy, because Anthony Garcia said, but we got a sick moose call. Kind of want to use it. And that made me think of, if an intelligent race, what if they're just broadcasting to lure us?
Oh, come here.
Like they're a little human call, like, yeah, help us over here. We're looking for people, right? And it's like, come there, like, haha, you're dead.
They send us instructions for an interdimensional or interstellar vehicle with all the technology, which we build and with their instructions, and leads them right back to us, opening up a wormhole from our planet to them. They don't even have to find us. They know exactly where we are.
We come to them.
We come to them.
Plus a Stargate.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Kind of.
Come to us. We've got candy and unlimited Wordle. You can play it all day.
Oh, fuck off. Wordle.
It's not just once a day. Come get us.
And we go there, and then they murder us because we fell for their calls.
Something this made me really reflect on was my original reaction to the movie Contact. Right, when I first saw it, and I remember being at the end, being like, "Oh man, it's her dad." Well, spoiler alert! Oh, it's her dad. Like, man, I wanted to see some freaking aliens or whatever. And then they kind of, they say like our form wouldn't be recognizable to you, or it would pretty much just drive you insane. Like you wouldn't be able to comprehend what we look like, anyways. And that's probably actually more accurate now that I think back. I'm like, no, that was a really good. Like that is a really good ending, because it's like you wouldn't be able to comprehend what they look like. Life, I think Carl Sagan said it. It's like life probably doesn't look anything like what we think it does.
Yeah, not even in the realm of.
They could be made of living. They could be plants. They could be living plants. They could be squid people. They could be not even anything. They could see on a completely different light spectrum from us. They could be fucking mantis shrimp eyes and all that kinds of crazy 80 billion different types of EM radiation. And it's like we have no idea.
Anyways, really, really cool theories. If there's aliens out there, those are some of the reasons why we haven't found them. Maybe it's the great filter we haven't passed yet, or we've passed it. We're the only ones too, and so many different reasons. So let us know what you think. Follow us on socials, message us. You got an email, contact@alientheorist.com.
Yeah, theory. If you got a theory that we didn't touch on that you've been sinking on, like let us know, right? Like sharing those things brings up new ideas. So send them to us. We want to hear them. We love talking about this shit.
Really, really fun. It's just a straight old fashioned theorizing.
Yeah.
If we were alone smoking weed right now, this would be an 8-hour case file.
Oh yeah. It's be late in the night, finishing with a My Sanook.
Yep.
It'd be me talking about Warhammer 40K universe for like 6 hours.
Anyways, really fun topic. Suggest you go look into all those. Yeah, if we miss something, let us know. Who do we got for Theorite of the Week?
Are we doing the one that I put in the group?
Yep.
Okay.
We didn't talk about it. That's the one.
Theorite of the Week is Josh Wright for his fucking unreal Brady Parker meme that he posted. It's Braden as Peter Parker, right? When he gets,
dude, my middle name's Peter. Why you didn't say Braden Peter Parker?
I don't know. I don't remember. Brady Petey Chucky. Peter. Yeah. Okay, I gotcha. Right before he gets his hand bitten.
If you don't know, my name's Braden Peter Charles III. I am from
that's not true at all. Your name is fucking Dragon.
Royalty.
Your name is Dragon. So
I don't care. The curse is over. It won't stick.
That's not. It's gonna stick forever. It's gonna be on your fucking tombstone.
You've put it into the zeitgeist of the podcast now.
It's now part of the lore, yeah.
I've seen people trying, but
Dragon.
There's a different feel about it. I just can tell it didn't stick.
We'll see.
Stop trying to not make Dragon happen, because it's going to happen.
I just really missed it.
We really wanted to bring it back.
Yeah.
Either way, post a wiki picture of Braden as Peter Parker. Mind if I do some photography work? Pretty perfect.
It was pretty good.
That's fun. I liked it. Yeah.
It played on my weaknesses and my insecurities, so I liked it.
It's great. Good old inside
Brandon loves
pod joke.
questioning his self-worth like on a
I
daily
look
basis
at
because of the memes on the page.
Yeah. If I have to look at if I look at a picture and then I have to do a self-reflection, usually you're a theorist of the week.
Absolutely.
That's a high protocol to be
Yeah.
to get selected. All right, that was fun. Fun case file.
That was a good one.
I got to give a quick honorable mention to our longest, most supporting patron of all time, Drew Baca. It's his birthday. Happy 40th, brother. We appreciate all the
Birthday,
support.
Baca.
Yeah. Again.
Now you put the accent on the and not the.
I didn't.
Sorry,
Man, come on, dude. Know your wiki, bro.
I mean, use context clues. They'll get it.
They'll figure it out. We'll use a new Google Pixel phone. It'll translate for him. Anyways, thanks, brother. We appreciate it. Hopefully, one day we'll get there, or one day you come here. All right, and if you're not supporting the show and you want early access, bonus material, the live stream, Discord access, all the other good stuff, you know where to go. alientheorist.com. This week's newest supporters: B Horny 805, Ricard Olson, Kimberly Myers, Ryan Taylor, Lyndon Shepard, and Dylan goes up to the $10 pledge.
Attaboy, Dill.
We got Daniel is my daddy. I think Daniel Clouston up at $10. Stevie Erickson. We got a year-long pledge by Andrew.
He's putting his own
Not
money
this
back
one.
into the pod.
Not a chance.
It's about time. We got another year pledged by Malagdar Earthrender.
Dope fucking name.
Nice. Great name. Sven Jafakin Kak. I didn't even know we had a 55 per month tier pledged by Corian.
Legend.
Fucking beauty. That's above our top tier pledge. I don't even know how that works. $10 pledge by Charlie Chuck Charles.
Carl Ballard, Chris Marino. We got a $5 pledge by probably the coolest name on our Discord, Hispanic at the Disco. That's fucking
really
amazing.
That's
That's
awesome.
phenomenal.
That's really good.
We got $3 per month for the Space Mayan. And then finishing off with $5 per month by Chris Backus.
Boom. Thank you very much for supporting the show.
And as we always say at the end of these things, keep those eyes on the skies. Peace.
See you in after hours.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.